Hi, third graders. Welcome back to another lesson about fractions. Today we are talking about using non-unit fractions less than one whole from unit fractions. So far in math, we've been talking about unit fractions like 1/4, 1/3, fractions that have a 1 as the denominator. So today we're going to be exploring more about how we have numbers other than 1 in the numerator and what that looks like. So here we have our number bonds. Now, all your experience with number bonds, you'll remember that we have the whole in the top single bubble and then parts in the bubbles below. So here we can see we've got two parts of this whole. So let's have a look at what it is. The bigger part would be 3/5, because it would be 3 of those sections. The smaller part is 2/5, 2 of the smaller sections. So how many fifths are in a whole? 5/5. So if you have 5 parts of a pizza, then you have one whole pizza. Makes sense, right? So 3/5 and 2/5 equal 5/5. All right, now over here, again, we've got our whole and then our 2 parts. So 7/10 is our bigger part. 3/10 is our smaller part. How many tenths are there in a whole? Do you know? 10/10 gives us a whole. When the numerator and the denominator are the same number, that means you have one whole. So the number sentence would be 7/10 and 3/10 equals 10/10. Okay. Here's our application problem. So make sure you have your paper and pencil ready. I'll read it and then you can pause the video to give it a try. Chloe's dad partitions his garden into 4 equal-sized sections to plant tomatoes, squash, peppers, and cucumbers. What fraction of the garden is available for growing tomatoes? So again, before you get started, make sure that you're thinking about what's important. What would you underline in this problem? So he partitions his garden into 4 equal-sized sections to plant tomatoes, squash, peppers, and cucumbers. So it's asking what fraction of the garden is available for growing tomatoes. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video and give it a try. Okay, so you might have figured this out. An extension question will come up, but let's think about this. So if you have the garden, you split it into 4 equal parts. Here we have 1/4, 1/4, 1/4, 1/4, or 1/4, 1/4, 1/4, 1/4. And then you've got tomatoes, squash, peppers, and cucumbers. So what fraction of the garden is available for growing tomatoes? We can see that 1/4 of the garden is for tomatoes because there are 4 equal parts. And then the other parts are for squash, peppers, and cucumbers. Now here we have an extension. Again, you can pause the video after I read it to give it a try. Chloe talked her dad into planting beans and lettuce too. He used equal-sized sections for all the vegetables. What fraction do the tomatoes have now? So go ahead and pause the video, give it a try. Okay, so if originally there were 4 different vegetables, tomatoes, squash, peppers, and cucumbers, and now, so that's 4, and now Chloe wants to grow beans and lettuce too, there are now 6 vegetables in the garden. So now the tomatoes have 1/6 of the garden because now there are 6 different kinds of vegetables that each have an equal part in the garden. Okay, oops, let me erase. So here's our concept development part. Here is the unit form 1/2. This should look very familiar to you by now. Here is the fraction form 1/2. Again, we've got our numerator. That's the part that's shaded in this case. And it's the denominator tells us that there are 2 equal parts in this shape. 2, again, is 2 equal parts. The 1, we're talking about 1 of the equal parts. Okay, so now we have another shape. Again, this is one whole. But what unit is it partitioned into or divided into? It's divided into thirds. What is the unit fraction? 1/3. So here we have it shaded in. And now I'm going to copy this part of the shaded unit fraction to show there are going to be more parts shaded. So there's another part shaded, and we've got 2/3 shaded. So we still have not shaded the entire circle. We haven't shaded the whole. So 2/3 is a fraction that is referring to part or 2 parts of the whole. Okay, so let's look at another example. Here we have a rectangle, another shape, and what is it partitioned into? Well, we can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 parts, so it's partitioned into eighths. Now the unit fraction would be, remember that's just one of the parts, 1/8. And now I'm going to color in, I'm going to copy the shaded part to fill in some of the other parts. So can you figure out what the fraction would be now? How many units are shaded now? Now there are 5/8, which looks like that. 5 are shaded out of 8 total equal pieces. Now, we started with just the 1 unit shaded and then shaded another 4. So again, that 1 plus the 4 gives us 5/8 that are shaded. All right, now we have a rectangle that has been partitioned into fourths or quarters. The unit fraction would be 1/4. And now again, I'm going to make copies of the shaded unit to fill in some more. So now how many units are shaded? 3/4. 3 of the 4 units are shaded in. Again, we started with 1, we shaded in another 2, so now we have 3/4 shaded. So today, what you're going to do for your classwork, I will show you right here, is going to be to work with this idea of several units of a fraction being shaded, or several units in a fraction rather than just 1 unit. So let me explain this for you really quick. So it says complete the number sentence, estimate to partition each strip equally and write the unit fraction inside, and then shade each unit. Now, here's an example, and then for A it says 3/4. So you need to split this strip into 4 equal parts because we're talking about fourths, and then you can shade in the 3 it's talking about. So I'll do this one with you really quick. So you can drag these lines to partition your bars. So 1, 2, 3, that will give you your 4 sections, and then it says 3/4. You can color them in however it works for you. You might draw a quick rectangle to fill in the parts that you're talking about, whatever works for you. And then over here, you've got your unit fraction. Instead of writing them inside the bars, it'll be easier to write what each one of them would be. So for example, this one they've written 1/3 in each box, but that would be kind of difficult in these bars. So you can write it over here. The unit fraction for each part would be 1/3. So that'll be easier to type it rather than trying to do it on the bar. So you can do that for each one of these over here as well. And then you have a word problem down here. And then over here, I've done a similar thing for you to fill in the unit fraction and the fraction shaded. Once you get to this page, you can just type above the line for the numerator and below the line for the denominator. And so I hope that makes your classwork a little bit easier to navigate online. So good luck with your unit fractions or your more than 1 unit fractions. And if you have any questions, as always, you can